All right. Well, everyone, let's get started. Oh, nice mic. All right. Everybody good? Okay. Good morning and welcome to the 40th Ward. I'm Alderman Andre Vasquez here of this ward. Thank you to Mayor Lightfoot, Alderwoman and Chair of the Workforce Development Committee, Sadlowski Garza, and Local 2 President Tracy for joining us today on this important occasion as we rightfully recognize our city's firefighters, paramedics, and public safety workers with this new agreement that thankfully provides for $95 million in back pay and the absolutely vital PPE distribution guarantees that all our essential workers deserve. We know that negotiations are not always easy, but we are very proud of Chicago's union and labor movement. We are grateful for Chicago's Firefighters Union Local 2 and President Tracy for their hard work on behalf of their members. Chicago firefighters are on the front lines every day in service to our city as they respond to the needs of our communities. The brave folks at the Chicago Fire Department protect and care for us during the derecho storm, in which a tornado touched down very close to where we are now, during a global pandemic and associated social unrest unlike anything we've ever faced, and during the emergencies affecting our residents, which may be a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence for them, but to the CFD is part of the job. Our city must do its part to ensure we take care of you and your families as we recognize all you do for our city. Thank you for your commitment to Chicago. We are forever in your debt. I'd like to now pass it to Mayor Lightfoot.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Alderman Vasquez. I want to start by recognizing the leaders who are here with me today. Fire Commissioner Richard C. Ford II, President of Local 2, Jim Tracy, and Alderwoman Sadlowski Garza, who is the chairwoman of the committee which approved this important agreement, Alderman Jim Gardner, himself a fireman, Alderman Nick Spizzato, also a fireman who is here with us. I also want to say Shana Tova to our Jewish community observing Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year today and over the weekend. I want to also call attention to this pen. I was granted the honor of receiving this pen over 2 years ago, and I wear it with great pride. I wear it with great pride because for me, it represents the commitment and reminds me of the commitment that I have made and will continue to make to the men and women of the fire department in this great city. We're gathered here today not only to sign the next collective bargaining agreement with the Firefighters Local 2 Union, but we're also here to celebrate and express our immense gratitude for their hard work, and sacrifice over these past few months. Support that has been invaluable as we continue to respond to and recover from COVID-19 pandemic and civic unrest. Even in the darkest days of the pandemic and the social unrest this spring and summer, we always knew in every neighborhood across our city that we could count on the men and women of the Chicago Fire Department to be out there, to be on the streets, and to be present for our residents when they needed it most. And thanks to their selflessness and expertise, our city is safer and better equipped to handle the growing needs of our residents. Today's signing ceremony will give these brave men and women access to the fair wages and benefits they deserve while still being judicious with taxpayer dollars, thus cutting a fair deal for our first responders and our taxpayers. As mayor, I have had the privilege of attending Fire Academy graduation ceremonies, and it's always a thrill. It's such an incredible environment to see the culmination of the weeks and weeks of hard work, but really years and years because the families are there, the families who have supported the young men and women who walk across the stage. But one thing that's very clear is that when I see those graduates walking across the stage, what they're really walking into is a middle-class, solid way of life. And the contract that we are signing today is a manifestation of that reality and that promise and our commitment to the men and women who serve in the fire department in every capacity. They serve us, and we will stand by them with fair wages, benefits, and safety protections, and that is, of course, the way that it should and must be. This contract will memorialize the concerns of our firefighters and ensure that they receive a second set of bunker gear for their safety and convenience. Now, I emphasize that because when President Tracy and I went around to a lot of firehouses back in the day, one of the things that I heard over and over again is that we needed another set of bunker gear. Because when men and women respond to a fire in the middle of the winter and their clothes get contaminated and they get wet, another fire could be happening where they've got to respond on the same shift. It's important that we take the steps that are necessary so that men and women in the fire department have the equipment that they need to keep them safe and healthy as they respond to people's challenges on their worst day. And I'm proud of this provision in the contract in particular. Our firefighters are already stepping in harm's way to keep us all safe, protected, and connected to care when we need it most. So it's our responsibility to make sure that they are free from fear and the fear of wearing contaminated equipment. In addition, this contract will formalize our commitment to emergency medical service side of CFD, increasing the minimum number of ambulances that are up and running and making sure that they have what they need as they work around the clock to serve the residents of this great city. We are proud to have reached a fair and equitable agreement with Chicago Firefighters Local 2 Union, but there's more progress to be made. For example, there's more work to be done to make sure that we're continuing to increase diversity within the CFD. When I sit there on those graduation stages, I want to make sure that the graduates reflect the great diversity of this city, and we are committed to making sure that that happens. I also want to take a moment to also thank really the entire team on both sides that were part of this negotiations, led by Jim Franzik, who was our great leader on all things public safety contracts, but particularly this one. I want to give a nod to, you can clap. Franzik, there's love in the room for you, man. I want to give a nod to Mr. Sugarman, who is the lawyer on the other side, who fought hard, as he should, for his members' rights and to make sure that they got a good contract. Thank you, Bob. And I want to give love to folks in the mayor's office as well. I see Cecily Porter here, who is our lead labor negotiator in the Department of Law. Thank you, Cecily. And I want to give a shout out to my guy, Mike Frisch, who has been with me for a long time, has dived into this work, and has done just a tremendous job. So thank you, Mike, but really thank you, everyone. This is a great day for the city of Chicago. I said to Jim, one of the first conversations that we had, we've got to stop the cycle of contracts expiring, and years and years and years later, finally, we get to the bargaining table. I can't undo the past, but I make a commitment that we are going to do everything that we can to start negotiations before contracts expire so that we can get them done as quickly as possible thereafter. So again, thank you, everyone. Thanks for all the hard work. And Jim, the podium is yours.
So unfortunately, we're going to be back at this same game again in March. So we got 6 months of reprieve. The mayor and I are in agreement that this is a fair contract. We are still miles apart on certain issues. Again, Jim Franzik is a gentleman. The mayor is true to her word, and her handshake is what I depend on, and she came through with what she said she would do. I'm not happy with all the provisions of the contract, as my membership is also not happy with it all, but today is a good day. We are moving forward, and we'll start negotiations again in March. Bob Sugarman has been unbelievable for the last 30 plus years that he's been dealing with the fire department before I was even around. This is 40 years after Our good friend Moon Mascari went to jail for the fire department because they went out on strike. The men and women, their wives, everybody who put up with all that was incredible to get us our benefits that we enjoy now and we will continue to enjoy in the future, including manning and making sure that we have enough men and women on every fire engine and every fire truck in the city. It can't be done by 2 or 3 people. It has to be by 5-person, period. We cannot do our job without it. We endanger the lives of ourselves and we endanger citizens. We need to maintain manning, and the mayor was true to her word, and she kept that up till 2022. So I'm very pleased with being able to deal with a person of integrity, and she is. She's been dealt a bad deck of cards with the COVID-19. Our men and women have been busting their ass through MRSA, through COVID-19, through all kinds of different scenarios of public unrest and everything else. They always answer the bell. The men and women of the Chicago Fire Department are bar none the best in the country. They are phenomenal. I love each and every one of them. And I'm thrilled to be where we're at right now, to move forward, to get them some relief, and to get the citizens a fair deal also. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alderwoman Sue Sidlowski Garza, and I'm also the chairman, I'm proud to be the chairman of Workforce Development. Jim, I have to touch base on a word that you used. You said integrity. For me, integrity is the utmost importance in the job that we do, because all we have is our word. And if we go back on our word, my dad used to say, you ain't got nothing then. And your word is your bond. So you're right. Mayor Lightfoot does have integrity, and so do you, and so do I. And so do the men and women of the Chicago Fire Department. I'm proud to stand here today, and I want to say thank you to everyone for negotiating this contract. Negotiating contracts are not always easy. My friend Jim knows that very well. Chicago has always been a city for workers. And with this agreement, we are demonstrating our commitment to our first responders. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for everything that, what is the saying? When a fire happens, you don't run, most normal people run away, you run towards it. I can't even fathom the job that you guys do every day. And in the past couple months, I've watched things burn, and I've watched you run in. For that, I will be forever grateful. So on behalf of the citizens of Chicago, thank you so much for all you do. We will all be forever grateful. Thank you. And thank you, Mayor Lightfoot.
I think we'll take some questions at this time. right here? Okay, and if I can take one right here? Great. Thank you.
Is that a pro bono appearance?
All right, happy to take your questions.
Morning, Mayor.
Morning.
I guess the first question that comes to mind with this new contract is, how do you pay for this $95 million in back pay with the current budget situation?
Well, we had set aside money to make sure that we could pay it. Obviously, we anticipated what the amount would be, and we started setting aside resources to make sure that we could get the deal done. So it's already accounted for.
And yet you're going to have to be back negotiating again in 6-8 months, whatever.
Yeah, and we'll deal with that as it comes. But, as I said at the outset, we walked into a circumstance where literally every public safety contract was open and unfinished and had been expired for a number of years. I don't sign on to that. I want to make sure that we are getting a deal done that is fair for the members, that is fair for the taxpayers, but getting it done in a timely fashion. The cycle of these contracts for years and years and years, long before I came on the scene, and then you end up paying all this back pay plus. I don't think that that's good for the morale of the members. It puts, I think, an enormous pressure on union leadership. And it's not a good deal for the taxpayers either to kick the can down the road and not deal with the here and now. So I think we have done what we need to do to make sure that we get the past taken care of. And President Tracy and I and the whole team are committed to taking the next steps as we agree to, so that we don't have another problem down the road.
But the thoughts of doing a longer-term deal, that was not even on the table.
No, there was a lot of scenarios that were looked at, but the reality is we had a contract that was expired, what Jim, for a couple of years, and we needed to get it done and get the members, I think, the pay that they deserve, and not have this thing linger on while we dealt with some other and tougher issues.
One of those other tougher issues, of course, is the police contract. Things don't seem to be going quite as well with them. A number of my City Hall colleagues are wondering about not filling the vacancies. Fran Spielman saying 847 sworn vacancies, your budget director said, are under scrutiny and might be reduced to chip away at the shortfall. Police Academy is not graduating enough people to fill the vacancies. Are you planning on not filling these vacancies?
Well, I think our budget director addressed that yesterday at the Public Safety Committee. We're looking at a range of different options. When you got it staring down the barrel of a $1.2 billion deficit for next year, on top of an $800 million shortfall this year, we got to look at a variety of options, and I think she laid them out. Obviously, vacancies is one of the things that we're looking at. Of course, we're looking at vacancies. I think the taxpayers would expect us to look at every tool in our toolbox. Have we arrived at what the proposal is that we're going to put to the City Council in about 3 weeks' time? No, we're looking at a range of different scenarios. But I've been very clear-eyed since our budget forecast announcement on August 31st. A lot of hard, tough, painful choices are going to have to be made.
John Catanzaro has complained that his members have been used as mules, and he's going to present a counter proposal apparently today or sometime soon, wants an up or down vote by the City Council. Can you move that way?
Look, I don't have a lot of good things to say about him in particular, but I care deeply about the men and women of the Chicago Police Department. It's over 1,100 days since the police contract expired. We should get a deal done. and he should get at the table and be serious about getting a deal done. But a deal done with the Chicago, with the FOP has to include accountability and reform measures. And if he's not serious about that, we're going to quickly find ourselves in an impasse. I'm not going to negotiate in the media. I think that that's a mistake, and that's not what adults should be doing. So, as I said, I don't have a lot of good things to say there. But I am committed to getting a fair deal done with the FOP, just as we've now done with every other law enforcement union. They stand alone. We want to be at the table. We want to get something done and move forward. Really, the ball is decidedly in the court of the FOP, but all this hue and cry in the media doesn't get a deal done and doesn't serve the members well, most importantly.
A couple off-topic questions. Block Club wondering, with all the children that have been shot in Chicago this year, what can city leaders do to reduce gun violence among children?
Look, I think we've got to step up in every neighborhood and make sure that we are not giving shelter to any of the people who think it's a good idea to pick up a gun and shoot into crowds. Every single child that's been shot has been shot because somebody picked up a firearm, shot randomly, without any regard for the consequences. And let me just finish the thought. We cannot normalize this behavior. We cannot shelter the people who are recklessly destroying the fabric of our community and particularly bringing harm to our children. We've got to keep continuing to push hard to provide services in neighborhoods that are most challenged by violence, but we also need to hold the shooters accountable, and that's precisely what we're going to do.
Let me ask about the CDPH unveiling the Healthy Chicago 2025. What steps are you going to take to close the life expectancy gap for Black Chicagoans?
Well, the first thing that we need to do is actually talk about that there's a life expectancy gap, talk about what are the underlying causes, and making sure that we are in partnership, not just with city government partners, but the private sector, with healthcare organizations, federally qualified healthcare centers in the neighborhoods, to make sure that we are educating people about their health and getting them connected up to services. That is a lot of the hard work that we've done over the last 7 months in responding to the pandemic, and also our racial equity rapid response team going deep at a hyper-local level into communities of color in particular. But really this is a challenge for the entire city, and individual responsibility also has to play a role. By that I mean making sure that individuals are armed with the resources they need to help themselves. But we still have to push hard into neighborhoods that are challenged to make sure they've got access to healthy food, that they've got access to good quality health care and pharmacies. There's a lot more work to be done, and I welcome the partnership of the entire city, from businesses to civic leaders to community-based organizations. That is the only way that we're going to turn around the healthcare outcomes of our residents, is to make sure that we have an all hands on deck strategy, and that's what Healthy Chicago 2025 is all about.
Final question. I've got several more, but Bill Cameron was wondering, why do you now feel that fans in the stands for the Bears or baseball or whatever is still possible, but I think yesterday you were saying still less than 50%?
No, that's not what I said. What I said is that every sports team that wants to have fans in the stands needs to be a partner and work with us. Not just say it in the media, but work with us. Come together with a plan, work with our experts at CDPH, and come up with something that is realistic. If you're talking about, for example, Soldier Field, realistically, that's hundreds of people that have to be there just to support the game itself. And then when you layer into it, you're adding people in the stands. That is a complicated exercise at a time that we're in the middle of a pandemic. That takes a lot of work. Saying it and wishing it doesn't make it happen. We've got to plan for it. And what I've said to all the sports teams and the Bears is, be a partner. Come to us with specific, concrete plans. Let's work through it. But it's a complicated exercise when you're talking about putting hundreds of people into a venue like Soldier Field and knowing and recognizing all the supports, the men and women of the Chicago Fire Department are going to need to be there, paramedics, firefighters on deck. It is a massive exercise to put one of these events on, so that's why we can't just talk about it in the media. We've got to dig down and do the hard work of planning to make it happen, but it's always going to be dictated by the public health guidance. We are just coming out of a spike in cases in the city of Chicago that started in late July, took the entire month of August and September. We're just seeing in the last 7 to 10 days a downward trend, but we're still over 200 cases per day, and our percent positivity is not where anybody would like it. So having a conversation about throwing hundreds of people into a venue like Soldier Field when we are still seeing an uptick of cases isn't responsible. Now, it doesn't mean we can't plan for contingencies, but we've got to deal with the realities of where we are, which is in the middle of the fight for our lives with a pandemic.
Can I ask you one follow-up question just regarding police? With all the vacancies that are out there, just the whole idea of balancing the budget, but how many could you theoretically reduce without compromising public safety?
Well, look, I'm not going to speculate about that, but the practical reality is when you think about what does it take to stand up an academy class in the middle of a pandemic, you've got to have social distancing in place. And so the reality is classes for the foreseeable future are going to be smaller because they need to be because of the space constraints. The fire department has absolutely seen that. That's why we delayed classes for this year with the police department. We're mindful of the fact that there have been, and there continue to be every year, a lot of retirements, and we want to do the best that we can to keep pace with those, but we've got to be realistic about how many people can actually physically be in the space at the current police academy, and that's a reduced number from what we've seen in past years. But yes, of course, everyone has to contribute to the sacrifices that are going to be made as a result of the massive budget deficit that we have for next year.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.